Lecture 8, I'm going to talk about international trade. First topic is what is international trade? It is the extent to which countries participate in international trade can be described by two quantities: exports, or the value of the goods a country sells to the rest of the world, and imports, the value of the goods a country buys from the rest of the world. The production possibility frontier. The production possibilities frontier shows the maximum combination of outputs that can be produced from a given set of inputs. And economy of scope. It is more efficient to produce goods jointly than separately. Graphically, it is represented by a convex production possibility frontier. The comparative advantage and the gains from trade. We say a country has a competitive advantage in the production of a good when the opportunity cost of producing a particular good is lower in any other country. Differences in opportunity cost lead to comparative advantage in different goods. Even when countries have an absolute advantage in producing a good, there can be a comparative advantage. So when countries have different comparative advantage in production of different goods, there are potential gains from the trade through specialization. Each country produces what it has a comparative advantage in producing. Comparative advantage can come from the first is differences in factor endowments. For example, Canada is a major exporter of lumber and paper products since so much of that country is forested. This gives them a comparative advantage in that area. And the second is differences in technology. For example, Japan is a major exporter of auto despite no natural factor endowment advantage. So what's the to know of international trade? First is distinguish between comparative advantage and absolute advantage. You need to calculate the opportunity cost of the goods, and it forms um and it forms should choose the product of comparative advantage. They should produce that items like specialization. Okay, so given cost of production for two nations determine for each good which country has an absolute or an comparative advantage. In diagrams and math show the welfare impact of imports and exports in US markets. Mm, yeah, because uh, the international trade by specialization of the goods and services, there will be a totally social welfare increases. If the country the importer is greater than the exporter, then the consumers surplus increases. Meanwhile, if the country is an exporter, like mainly exporter the some goods, its the country's producers surplus will increases. Okay, so let's talk about international trade, welfare, and policy. The welfare, the welfare impacts of international trade. International trade produces efficient gains from specialization. International trade also um, ambiguously raises social welfare. In competitive model, open to trade ambiguously increases total welfare, but usually at the expense of either consumers or producers. So we need to impose some policies. Imported tariffs are taxes le- 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 levied by levied only on imports. Some people opposite free trade because they believe free trade is not good enough at compensating the losers. So they want to government to impose some tariffs on imports. So those taxes can be compensating those losers, either the producer or the consumers, and that it could be socially damaged routes to comparative advantage. The same set of principles about trade in goods applies also the free flow of workers. The tunnel is explain why international trade unambiguously raises social fear and give arguments for and against the free trade. So let's international trade. Thank you for listening. The next part is lecture 9. See you next time. Bye bye.